Hello everyone and welcome to the PlayHQ system demonstration webinar for Cricket New South Wales. Thank you very much for joining us. As you can see on the screen there, so we've had a number of registrations come through and thank you very much for that. We've also had a number of people reach out today once the registrations were closed. So what I asked everyone to do, basically in your chat functionality, if you were just able to populate your email address into that chat functionality, we just want to ensure that we can collect those email addresses and make sure we can get you the recording of tonight's event and any follow-up correspondence as well. So yeah, please populate your email address through the chat over the course of the night. Look, for whatever reason, if you don't receive the follow-up communications, please reach out through that club support email address. It may take a couple of days just to get that out, considering we're at the end of the week. But yeah, we'll make sure we get that information to yourself one way or the next. Again, thank you very much for joining. We'll get into it, considering that the recording will be available for those that are late to join or may not have been able to join since the registration. So Greg, if you're able to go to the next slide for me. So just some basic housekeeping. Essentially, just wanted to talk you through, this might be the first time that you've actually utilised the live event function. So essentially, in terms of asking questions, as an attendee, you won't be verbally able to ask those questions, and that was just purely due to the response numbers we got regarding this registration or this event tonight. But to ask a question, basically use that ask a question icon, which might be on the top right of your screen, or it might be at the bottom of your screen. Essentially, that's an open communication to myself, and I'll be responding to as many questions as I can throughout the night. There may be some brief time at the end to actually go through some questions, but the primary purpose of tonight is to show you as much of the system as we can. If for whatever reason we weren't able to get back to you, we'll make sure we follow up in the coming days with some further information. Next slide, please, Greg. So just wanted to touch on a very high level. Obviously, for those unaware, we've had a long transition phase, and the original plan was to transition regional New South Wales across to the PlayHQ platform this coming season. We've been provided a wonderful opportunity in consultation with Cricket Australia and PlayHQ to bring the whole of New South Wales across, and that was for two main reasons. The extra additional support and resourcing that we will get through this extra transition phase, while not everyone is on the system, will be really key to a successful transition. And we genuinely believe that MyCricket has reached its capacity and is not providing the volunteer or player experience that we expect for a community cricket system. So we do genuinely believe that while the PlayHQ system is still developing, and you've got to consider that the current MyCricket system we have has 13 years of development behind it. We're talking probably around 1 to 2 for the PlayHQ system. We certainly will continue to see improvements over the next couple of years. So over the coming days, Cricket Australia will launch their national training calendar. A lot of work has gone into that. That will include 4 webinars, 2 for clubs and 2 for associations, and there'll also be some integration webinars around your MailChimps, your Wix and e-scoring as well. So from a Cricket New South Wales point of view, we want to utilise that training that Australian Cricket has put together, and we'll complement that with some face-to-face sessions where required as well. So we're kind of breaking this down into 3 phases. You've got your July 1, which is obviously a lot of metro-based entities, and even those of you that are based in sort of around the Central Coast of Newcastle, potentially in Illawarra and the ACT, have been working towards having registrations open from July 1 in recent years, and we want to make sure that that possibility is still available heading across to PlayHQ. We know from August 1, a few more of our regional friends come onto the system, and we also know there's a cohort of administrators who are heavily entrenched in winter sports or a number of satellite associations, especially as we move out into Western New South Wales. So there'll be a just-in-time mantra to ensure relevant registration time and to make sure relevant competition setup time as well. Excitingly, we're in the final stages of building out our Cricket New South Wales website. So there's some content available at Cricket Australia level, which we've shared over the last couple of months, but we'll be continuing to do that, and we'll be tying that in nicely with our local communications and transition plans. And in terms of getting a common question we've received is actually getting access onto the PlayHQ system. Obviously, we're really excited, like yourselves, to get onto the system and utilise the system. And we'll make sure that that access to the system is provided in advance of your training journey, whether that be through June in the lead up to July 1, or whether that be closer to a start around mid-October. What I'll do now is I'll hand you over to Greg Pell from Cricket Australia. Greg is our senior manager and as part of the product management team, and he works in the broadcast and digital team. So Greg has been working very closely with PlayHQ for a long period of time, and he's heavily entrenched in working with PlayHQ to make sure the system meets the needs of the cricket community. So thank you very much, Greg. I'll hand over to you.
No worries. Thanks. Sorry, I've just got a bit of echo coming through here. Yeah, so thanks for that, Luke. I've been at Cricket Australia now for a couple of years. I sort of came on board quite early in this project and have spent a lot of time working with our state and territory colleagues and PlayHQ to bring this project to life. I've personally got a background in, I guess software project development and implementation over the last sort of 15 years. And additionally, I'm also involved in the cricket community. I still play cricket. I'm a secretary at my own cricket club, and have been sort of heavily involved in, I guess, the use of platform like MyCricket over many years, and I'm pretty invested in ensuring this project's a success. So, sort of really excited to be part of it and starting to bring this to the various communities around the country. So I just wanted to bring up one more slide and have a little bit of chat about what I'm going to be demonstrating tonight. So I want to try to give everybody a quite well-rounded view of what the PlayHQ platform looks like and sort of how generally it functions. Obviously not going to go into every little nook and cranny, especially from a competition administration point of view. There's a ton in there. I'll try to just touch on some of the core things initially tonight, and there'll be plenty of other opportunities to go into other areas in a lot more detail down the track. Yeah, look, I'll try to take it at a fairly even pace to ensure that it's not too much of a whirlwind for everybody, and you can try to take a bit of it in. So yeah, I just wanted to cover off the three main areas of PlayHQ. So the system's effectively got three parts that the users would interact with. Sometimes that could be the same user, especially lots of volunteers who still play cricket will likely touch all three parts of the platform. Some may just live in the admin side of the system as a club admin. Some may just score, and then obviously a lot of ourselves who register to play cricket and parents who register their kids will definitely get used to the PlayHQ public portal. So we've got the public portal. That's the main area of PlayHQ where we go through our registration, where participants can view their profiles. You can view registration history. And it's also an area of the platform where team managers and coaches can also get access to manage their teams. I think it's one of the changes with moving to a platform like PlayHQ. It means now we're moving to a place where not everyone has to be an admin. So like if you're just a parent who's a team manager and all you want to do is select the side for the weekend, or you're just going to be scoring, you can log in there and just do that job within, say, the participant or the public portal. But if you require more access and you need to manage things on behalf of your club, or especially if you're a competition administrator, then that second row there is the PlayHQ admin portal. That's where you'll then have additional access to do all those jobs that are pretty necessary to either running competitions or managing your club in those competitions. And then third is the PlayHQ e-scoring product. that once again lives on a different URL, but I think the one key thing to take out of this is that your same account that you log in and create to register to play cricket or administer a club or score is the same account. There's no need to memorize random ID numbers anymore, or have multiple usernames that you're not sure what does what. You'll have one account that will allow you to do everything that you're being, I guess, given access or that you need to do within the cricket ecosystem within PlayHQ. So with that being said, tonight I want to go through and do a little bit of an end-to-end demo, wearing a couple of hats within the volunteer and participation space. So initially, I want to give everybody a bit of a view of what it looks like from a competition admin perspective. How do you kick off a new season and get clubs involved, which is effectively sort of that first step to allow clubs to open up registration. And that's obviously, early in the season, that's really important for clubs to be able to do that. And then to that end, we'll jump in and have a look at it from the club admin's perspective, look at how we're going to set up some registration, have a look at how things like merchandise management works with registration, custom questions, all those sorts of things. Then I sort of want to bring all that together and show you then what it looks like from the participants' view. So when they go to register, when they find your club and play cricket, which is still going to be part of this entire experience from a registration perspective. Once they find your club and decide to go through the registration flow, what does that look like on PlayHQ? For the first time, and then for a returning participant, how have we made that experience a lot more streamlined and easier to do from one season to the next. I also then want to go back and touch on the public portal and show sort of some of those new things and tools and capability we're going to give people like team managers and coaches access to do within the public portal. And then finally, we'll have a bit of a look at e-scoring to give everyone a view of what that product is going to look like. So I'm going to just close down this slide deck and then bring up the system. So Luke, if you can just give me a thumbs up to let me know you can see the system, that'd be great.
Yeah, mate, you've got the PlayHQ interface coming through.
Excellent. All right. So, okay. So first of all, as mentioned, we want to have a bit of a look at the system from a competition administrator's perspective. How do we kick things off? So what I wanted to do is quickly run through a comp setup process and then setting up a season, and then we'll flow through to the club side of things that I mentioned. Adding a competition is pretty simple. When you log into the platform as a comp admin, this is where you first land. You land in competition management, and I guess from a competition perspective, you can slice and dice this many ways, and probably in ways that make sense for your association. A really plain, simple example is that you might have 2 or 3 different competitions. You might have a junior comp, a senior comp, and a veterans comp, and then there could be lots of different variations of those. And that's what we're going to do first up here. So I'm going to go through and create a new competition. We'll call this Northern Metro Senior Comp. I'm going to select the format, flagging this as senior. Formats are pretty important. We utilize that data to surface up things in a meaningful way on Play Cricket, so pretty important that we select the right format there. I want to make my comp visible and then move through the wizard. Now, one thing that it allows you to do straight off the bat is manage the different formats of cricket. Within PlayHQ, we've got 3 main formats, which can then get tailored to all the discrete formats that sort of we all know and love, right down from all your specific junior formats, all the way up to different variations of senior competition. across the board. So, and what this allows you to do is sort of set this up, set all the defaults that are pretty typical for your competition. So obviously, if you play 2-day cricket and then you eventually end up setting up grades which are either 2-day only or a mixture of 2-day, 1-day, and T20, you'll be able to do all of that. But these are effectively just the defaults that those grades will inherit when you set up those grades. You can change them from one grade to the next. So you could have a 1-day 50 over grade, you could have a 1-day 40 over grade, and you can pretty much get as granular and various configurations as you like. I'm not going to go through every setting. Obviously, otherwise we'll be here for definitely more than the 45 minutes or an hour we've been allocated. But I'm just going to sort of breeze through and just show you some of the things that I'm talking about. The other thing just to quickly point out too is that a lot of these settings will be inherited by e-scoring. So based on the type of grade and the specific game you're about to play, it will inherit a lot of these settings. So yeah, we've got things like number of playing days, maximum batters, maximum players, various configurations for how overs should play out, batters. A lot of these different configurations here really come into the fore with some of the junior formats. So allowing unlimited dismissals per batter, then having runs added to the score when you take wickets and all those sorts of things, which are common in some of the lower junior formats. And how wides and no balls are treated. So we'd obviously want, for a lot of stock standard cricket, re-bowl wides and re-bowl no balls. And then going down here, we can look at ladder settings. So we can set up custom ladder points. We can choose the sort of the type of ladder that we want for our competition. How regrading works by default in your competition. And then you can look at even customizing a ladder view. So you can pick and choose what columns you want to appear in your ladder. So if for example, net run rate, something that you got and you don't really care about in your comp, you can hide that from view if that's something that you don't really use. I'll just flick through the rest here. We also have our 1-day game default settings and then T20. Once we're happy with that, there's some sort of stock standard things we can control here around who can enter scores, who can e-score on the e-score app for this particular competition. How long do clubs have access to update scores and all those sorts of things. And then there's a few other features here that can be enabled for the competition, like player point systems, final eligibility criteria, if you want to turn those things on, but they're all optional. And you can choose whether or not you want to turn them on for a particular specific competition, and then you can obviously do that down to the grade level later on when you set up your grades. So I'm going to create my grade, create my comp, and I just the thing to reiterate, setting up comps is really the sort of set and forget type thing that you would do as a comp admin. Once you've done it, you could go for years and not have to redo your competition. The thing that really changes from one season to the next is adding seasons and manipulating the grades that are going to be available from one season to the next. So, but we've got our fresh competition now. There's only one more step that I need to do, well, 2 steps that I need to do as a comp admin now to enable clubs to come in and start participating and setting up their registration. So one of those steps is adding a season. So for the demo tonight, I'm just going to create a winter season, and we'll start that from, let's say we'll do the beginning of April, and that will run through till the end of August. You can configure exception dates. So exception dates will be taken into account when you do your fixturing. So if there's public holidays or whatever, what have you, then that would be taken into account. Obviously, you want to set up venues that are relevant to the competition, so that it's going to make fixturing a lot easier for you. These are sorts of things that would roll over from one season to the next as well. I want to make my season visible, and that's probably about it. So I've created my season, and now I want to allow clubs to open up registration. So I can go in here. I've got my season winter 22 for this comp. here I'd configure things like grades and entity teams. I could view participants who have registered in from other clubs, and look at how ground allocation's done once I've done fixturing. There's a lot to it. I'm not going to go into all that tonight. As I said, there's a fair bit to go through, and I just want to cover off a lot of the basics tonight. But effectively, to get clubs on board, they need to be invited. We want to set those up, and I want to go a couple of demo clubs that I set up for tonight. Got the Northern Reds and the Northern Blues. I've added those. They'll receive invites. I can optionally allow clubs to nominate teams for this particular season. If I don't want to do that and I still want to manage how what teams or what clubs are allocated to what grades, like I currently do in MyCricket, I can just not open up the ability for clubs to be able to do that. It's completely optional. So for now, I'm just going to set the dates for this to be dates in the past, so that clubs won't have the ability to do it. Also, you can create some flexibility around how player points are assigned to, but I'm going to leave that off for now. I get a view of the fees that are going to be applied from above. So we've got things like national fees there, and then if there's any association fees that I might want to take, I would configure them here. But for tonight, we're just going to set everything to $0 to make it nice and simple. So we've done that. We've hit save, and then that's it. So that's really all that needs to be done there to kick off the season and open it up, and then allow clubs to come in and set up their teams. And then really later on down the track, that's the point when I do things like setting up my grades and then starting to fixture grades before the season commences. So that's just what I want to touch on from a comp admin perspective. Now I want to just jump in and show what clubs have access, sort of how quite similar the user interface is for clubs, and how they can go about doing what they need to do. So I'm going to jump into one of those clubs that we set up, the Northern Reds, and now we're refreshed and I've logged in. So you'll notice that I've got a slightly different view of how comps look. I can see here that I'm already participating in an active junior cricket comp, and then I've got a pending invitation here for the senior competition. So I'm going to accept that invitation to the senior comp. We'll jump back here, and now I want to go in and open up registration. So if the competition had already set up their grades, I would see those listed here, so I could just view to see what grades are going to be available for this coming season. But I don't really want to do any of that now. It's it's July or August. It's quite some time before the season is going to commence. So I'm going to jump in here and set up registration just to make sure people can see that I'm playing cricket and then start signing up. So I want to set up my participant to club form. Set up my registration period. So I might want to leave registration open all season. It might be some latecomers who come in. If we're talking a summer season, people might not really join until after Christmas sometimes. So you could leave it open for the entire season if you wanted to. But it's pretty flexible with what you might do. So I'm going to open up registration from the 1st of May. And I think our winter season we set up was end of August. So I'll just have reg close around about then. You can see here from a club's perspective, a breakdown of the various fees that are going to be applied. We saw that obviously the association set them up to be 0. And then here now as a club, I can choose to set up my fee structure in various ways that make sense for my club. There's a lot of flexibility in this, so I won't go into massive amounts of detail, but effectively there's 2 main ways clubs can configure registration. They can set up custom registration fees based on age and gender, if that's something they want to do specifically, or they can create complete custom variations for registration and price points. So for example, I might want to have a life member registration for players who get everything discounted there. I might have a concession price at a particular price point. Or some clubs might call it a student price. I might want to set up a few different game membership packages. So that's a few examples there of how I might like to configure things. And then these options will be presented in Play Cricket, and then they'll obviously be presented to the user when they go through the registration flow. I'm just going to save that and then quickly touch on a few other aspects that make things quite flexible for a club to set up during the registration, things like custom fields and products. But I'm just going to save that. And now we've got our form saved, and the fact at the moment it's in a hidden state, so that's our default state. But if we want to make that visible on the PlayHQ portal and make that visible in Play Cricket, we need to make that visible. But for now, obviously there might be a few things I still want to configure as a club admin, so I just want to leave that hidden. But I've got the link, so if I still want people to start to register, kick off some early transfer processes or whatever might need to happen early in the season, I can do that and just pass that link around. People just register directly into that competition for that club. But I just want to quickly touch on some of the other parts of the admin side of the system for clubs. So one I mentioned is merchandise. So PlayHQ has the ability for you to sort of manage merchandise and inventory that you can make available during registration. At the moment, you can only make it available during registration, but in the future, we're looking at other ways that you can possibly serve that up to participants all throughout the year. So I could just simply create a product called Club Hat, make that active. You can even upload some images that sort of show what your products look like. You can set up different variations, so you could do sizes of the hat or the item that you're selling, small, and then you go large, like that, and then you can set up different price points for the different variations. So it's all completely customizable and pretty flexible. You can even decide if it's a delivery or fulfillment option, delivery or pickup option. So if you selected delivery, then it would ask the user to enter in their delivery physical address so that you can send that stuff out. Otherwise, if pickup's the only fulfillment method, then it won't prompt the user to enter in their address when they purchase it. We'll save that one. So we've got our product saved. And now I'm just going to jump back in and update our registration to include these options. So we're going to jump in here. And before I do, I just want to set up a custom field as well. Maybe I want to ask people who are registering how they found out about the club. Could be anything. It's just an example I'll use for tonight. So I can go in here, and for this particular season and competition I'm taking registration for, I can create a custom question, and you could tailor that differently for seniors, different for juniors, different for your blast programs that you might be running. Let's ask the question that I mentioned there. How'd you find out about the club? I can choose to make that just free text entry, or I might want to have some options to select from. So maybe we want to have friend and social media as a couple of options there. And I can choose whether or not to make that mandatory. And then who's registering into what role can answer that. But really, I'm only interested in hearing from players for this particular question. So I'll create that. Got my custom question. And then really the final thing now I want to do is make this visible and enable that product that we just created. So back down here in this products area, we've got all our pricing that we set up before. You can see now that this custom question is going to be asked and who's going to be asked that question. And I click here and it's already pre-populated this with the product that I set up earlier. I can choose who this is available to based on their role, and then whether or not that product's mandatory. But we'll just leave that optional for now. I can put in some additional information. This information will be surfaced up on Play Cricket as well as the PlayHQ portal to give people ideas around what's happening at the club for this particular thing that they're registering to, any additional information that might be relevant. But for now, we just want to make that visible and save. So really, that's in a very simple nutshell, that's what clubs need to do to open up registrations. Pretty straightforward. And then once that's available, users will then be able to go through and complete registration, which is what I would like to show now. And I'm going to show you what it looks like as if I'm a completely brand new user. And just to really give you a feel for what that end-to-end process looks like. And then I'll be able to sort of touch on quickly, without going through the thing again, but touch on how that's improved that sort of second time around, or when you're registering multiple dependents or whatever it might be. So now I want to imagine that I've gone to Play Cricket, I've found the club and I've clicked on the link, and then this is what I would see. So I get an indication here that I'm registering to the Northern Reds into this particular competition and season, and here's some information about that. I want to get started. So I don't have an account, so I need to create an account, and it's sort of being clear here that we're creating a PlayHQ account with your details, even if you're registering a child. So I'm not putting my child's details in if I'll say registering on their behalf right at this point, but we'll get to that. So follow the instructions, and I'm simply just putting in my details. We'll call it Greg Demo 2. Or actually, we'll just call it Greg Demo. I've got an email address set up that I want to use to show you how this is going to work. And password. Just confirming my details there. So now to validate, to verify, I guess to activate that account, I just need to get a verification code which has been emailed to me. If I jump in here, refresh, there we've got our email just came through. We've got our code there. Put our PIN, confirm, and then we can log in and begin our registration. So creating that PlayHQ account's the first step, and it's a one-off step that it's going to enable you to register for yourself and dependents for all sorts of things. Just going to grab my email to log in. Plenty of test accounts, as you can see. Let's log in there. So now, now I'm coming into the detail of this actual registration flow. You can imagine that if I was doing this a second time, I would just log in. I wouldn't have to create that account. And then I'd be able to just pick from existing profiles to re-register them. But because this is the first time doing it, I've got to enter in some details. And then there's another once-off step that people have to do during registration, which is going to be pretty important. I'll touch on that in a second. Anyway, we're registering myself. Click next. I'm a player, my role. Now I need to put some details in. Let's quickly fly through this as quick as I can. I'll put an address. Got a nice address lookup feature here. All the usual questions that we ask, and many that would be familiar to people who register through MyCricket now. Disability questions. You can see here, there's the custom question that we set up earlier. How did you find out about the club? Select that, and then some emergency contact details, which I'll just quickly populate. Save those. It's just confirming everything you've entered is correct. Now we're on to the, I guess, the fees part of this flow. You can see any applicable fees that make sense. I will go in and I can see the various options that we set up earlier for the club. So let's just say I'm a life member. We've selected that. Obviously, the totals would marry up there. Accept. Now we've got the product step, so it's sort of guiding the user through here. We've got the hat that we set up as optional. Let's say we want to take one there. I've added that to my order, and then you can actually see a breakdown of the order summary. So if there's multiple things you're adding to your basket, you can see all those there. Then we're going to continue. Now this is the important step that I mentioned earlier, is that we've got a step where we link to our Cricut ID. Cricut ID is going to be important when users start to, I guess, participate in competitions that are running on PlayHQ. One thing to, I guess, to emphasize is that the MyCricket apps, for the most part, aren't going away. They're going to be there during this entire transition. And really, our aim is to make that experience for all participants as seamless as possible. So, for example, if you were looking at your club's participation in the competition from last season, but next season you're on PlayHQ, there shouldn't be any difference. You would just literally be looking at the new season, and then everything should be functioning on the MyCricket app as is. So then when it comes to participants, we need to be able to marry your new registration up on PlayHQ to your historical records that are in MyCricket. And this is how we're going to do it using a Cricut ID. A number of people already have a Cricut ID, those who have created one on the MyCricket app to remember all their details. A lot of those will already be linked to their old MyCricket ID. So you've sort of already done half that job. So when you go to link, you'll just be linking it to your existing account. But I'm just going to quickly show you tonight how that's set up. Pretty straightforward. Once this is done, you'll never have to do it on PlayHQ again. Once you're linked, this step won't even be there. And subsequent seasons, you'll just be registering and having to skip a number of these steps. But it's pretty important we just get this done first time so that we can then bring all of this stuff together and also really link you to other parts of our grassroots ecosystem as we continue to build that out. So I'm just going to go through and just quickly show you this. So I've clicked link. I'm going to jump into the Cricut ID page here. I assume I don't have an account. I'm just going to quickly sign up. I'm going to sign up with same details that we used just before. Make it nice and easy. It's got a tick, so that means it doesn't exist, so it's all good. Create a password. Put in a couple of details. Yeah. And set T's and C's, then create. So I've just got to verify this account because I've never set one up before. Get that through, get my code. Put that in. And that's it. So I'm back here. I'm linked, got the tick. Tells me I'm linked up there, and then I can continue to the last step. Here, if obviously our total was greater than 0, I'd have to put in my credit card details and any address details if I was required to do that for delivery of any goods that I've purchased. But not for tonight. I want to submit that registration, and then that's it. I'm registered into the club. What I can do here from this point, one thing I'll just highlight, we jump into our email, we can see here, we've got our welcome to Cricut, and then we've also got our player registration confirmation. If there was sort of money exchanging hands there as well, I'd get a tax invoice associated to that registration notification that I can use. Back here, if I was to register again, you can see now that Cricut ID step's gone. Don't have to do it again. If I registered myself for something else, all my details are saved, don't have to enter them in again. The same would be if I was doing, re-registering a dependent for something later on. But for now, we won't go through all of that again. I just wanted to sort of highlight, I guess, how the system remembers this and will persist this moving forward. If you end up moving house, if you just update that as you go through your registration in the next year, it'll automatically save that and then persist that for next time. So that's registration. Once you're logged into this public portal, you'll be able to see things like the teams that you might have been allocated to. Once that sort of happens a little bit later down the track by your club, once they've got their teams set up and they're allocated to grades by the competition, you'll be able to follow your teams here, drill down, look at their fixtures, look at results, your own profile and statistics and all those sorts of fun things. I can sort of see my registration history for this particular competition and all those sorts of things, update profile details, makes it all really good, all lives in one place. So while we're here, what I'll quickly just do is give you a view of what that looks like from a team manager's perspective, and there'll be a little bit more data in there to make it, to sort of bring it all to life. So I'm just going to quickly grab another login. Yeah. So I'm logged in. I'll jump into my account. And you can see here for Dave, I've been allocated to a team in my career club, so that when I, as a team manager, in this particular example, so when I come in here, I see the team that I've been allocated to. I can then click on that team and start to dive into a few different areas. So initially, I can look at the fixture that's associated to my team. I can drill through and see results, see if I can find one with some data in it. I can click through to the team and have a look at the full scorecard. I can have a look at the lineups that are involved in that game, and then obviously the result and all the details of that particular match. As I mentioned, as a team manager, I have a few other abilities. So, for example, one of those is to come in here, say for a future match, and I can go in here and even edit lineups. Because I've been granted management access for this particular team, being the team manager, I can come in here and select my team for this particular game, like so, and then finish that step off. So make it sort of bringing a lot of that together without the need for these types of people to have to learn an administration side of the platform. They can just do everything they need to do here, whether that's entering in results, if they've been granted that access, selecting teams and sort of all those sort of basic functions, and no need to then be given access to the rest of the platform and then have to learn a lot of that. So that's a view of team management, and before we run out of time, I just want to give everyone a bit of a preview of what the e-scoring platform looks like. So I've set up this particular game here that we're looking at. I've set that up so we can just kick that off and then have a look at that in action. So I'm going to come in here. Another account to log in as. My password. All right, so I'm logged in to the e-scoring now. I'm not sure if you noticed on our previous slide, the PlayHQ e-scoring product is a web-based product. You go to a URL and you log in. But it is important to note that it works offline and online. So the way it works is that you'll go here. Typically, when you're online, you can, much like you can do now with My Cricket Live scoring, is you can pre-download the games so that if you do happen to lose an internet connection in the middle of scoring, or that you're just going somewhere with no reception, you'll be able to score that game offline. And then as soon as you receive an internet connection, it'll automatically sync those results, whether that's in the middle of the game or at the end of the game. And then that'll just automatically get synced to the PlayHQ platform. Live matches that you're scoring will be appearing live on the PlayHQ portal. So back here, not this one. So back here on this page, as well as the Microgrid app, much like they do now. So none of that experience is really going to change for anybody. To kick off scoring a game, it's a little bit different. It works by venue. So I would select the place that I'm going to be scoring at. And then, if maybe I'm going to be scoring matches across Saturday and Sunday, I could select multiple days, or really just the day, day in question, if I want to just pre-download that game. So I'll select that. Then I'll just create a pin to effectively start the session for scoring on this device. So this is really effectively what's required to create the session and pull these matches down so I can begin scoring. So I'm going to start my session. You'll see I get a tick. That tick means it's pre-downloaded the games, and now I can jump in and start scoring. So there's the game that was set up. That's going to I think it was configured for the 14th. I want to jump in there and get straight into scoring this match. So one thing that I didn't do leading up was edit the lineups. So put in the team selection. Ideally, we want that job done for us beforehand. But for this example, I just need to quickly do it. So I've got my sort of roster or my squad that's available to me. I can add those players in like so. But if, for example, I've had a late change and I need to add someone else in who's not in this squad, I can do that. They can be a fill-in player, or we can look to pull someone in from another squad if need be. So we'll finish selecting that team, and we'll do St. David's as well. Get our 11 selected. Done. And now I'll put in who won the toss. So Blackburn won the toss. They elected to bat. And then we want to set up our strike batter, and then our non-strike batter, and then who's going to be opening the bowling. So a little bit of a different look and feel to how you've probably been used to in my cricket. We sort of want to bring this sort of all together in a procedural step-by-step manner, but you can go back and change any of those things quite easily, just jumping in here and hitting change, like so. And then we can start our innings. So I guess from a general layout perspective for scoring, we're not reinventing the wheel. There's a lot of similarities to what you've probably been used to in the past. But I guess the one thing to note is that being a web-based application, it's responsive, so it works on all various screen sizes. Tonight I'm demoing it from my laptop in a web browser. Obviously, it's been designed to work well on a mobile phone device, on a tablet device, and suit various screen sizes. Obviously, when you shrink down and get smaller, things like the event log here that you'll start to see to be populated as I start to score the match, they're all viewable because I've got a big screen. But obviously, if I was on a smaller device, that'll be hidden, but then you can just open it and close it if you need to get in there and undo an event or see what happened during the match. So everything sort of still functions as I mentioned, as we're all used to. We've currently got our score here as none for 5. We jump in here and refresh, we should get those details through. So you can see now the Blackburn scores come through as none to 5, and this game is now live. We increase that and jump there, it's none for 7. Then this this should update. Might because I'm running on the, yeah, there we go, that's updated there. Might apply a wicket, bowled, you can sort of change, got all the usual dismissal types, who's the new batsman, apply the wicket, and then we've got our end of over summary. So I can end that over, start my new over, and then continue on. So look, that's, I guess that's e-scoring in a nutshell. As I said, I'll see if I can give you a view of what things look like at a different size. So I've shrunk that down now, and I can continue scoring. You can see now my event logs up here. I can bring that in and have a look what's going on. I want to undo the last one, do that, close, and then keep scoring. And that's it. A lot more detail, obviously, we can go in. The e-scoring product itself is currently still being fleshed out. A lot more features being added to it as we speak. But the ultimate goal is that it's going to be pretty much comparable to the MyCricket LifeScore app. And I think due to a familiar design, I think that'll make it nice and easy for people to pick that up in the future. So I might now throw back to Luke if you wanted to close things off. But thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Greg. Just let you know, you're just on camera for a couple more minutes. We just had a couple of questions come through. Obviously, we're short of time. I just wanted to call a couple of things out. We have had a couple of tech issues in terms of a couple of people not being able to get on in terms of the device they were using, so that's absolutely fine. We'll make sure we share the recording. There's also been a couple of challenges with the chat functionality depending on device as well. So we did have a couple of questions come through, Greg. In terms of those that feel like they may not have actually completed the registration form and may have got the link from someone else, I just sort of urge you to reach out. There's a club support email address in that communication. Just provide your details into that email if you weren't able to do so through the chat function, and we can make sure we get that information to you. Also, in addition to that, if you couldn't ask the question that you're after, please also send that through to the club support email address that was in the communication. So we do apologise about that. Firstly, Greg, just wanted to clarify, which I think you called out a couple of times, but the use of multiple accounts in the demo was just for ease of functionality. We certainly are going back to one account when we talk about going towards Play HQ. So I just wanted to clarify that based on a couple of comments. A couple of questions, mate. One of the first ones that came through was around accepting regos, clubs accepting regos before the competition has been set up by the association. Did you want to just quickly call out the change in workflow under Play HQ being MyCricket between associations and clubs?
Yeah, so a piece of, I guess, feedback we've had is that there's been a desire for clubs to, open up registrations early, and competitions are normally happy to facilitate that. But especially before, our classic season cutover, where it was sort of July 1, and then, you're able to get in and start doing things that you want to do in platform. With Play HQ, there's going to be a lot more flexibility around that and how that's managed. So, for example, competitions, they'll still have to go in and go through some of those steps that I took you through tonight, but that could be done before July. They could go in and do that in March if you want. So, whilst you're still in current season, and if you're having a good final series, you might want to open up registration for the next season potentially and start taking registrations. So that's definitely going to be doable in Play HQ. But it still requires the competitions to open and kick things off there. But as I showed you, only a few simple clicks for them to be able to do that, and then clubs can get in there and do what they want in terms of configuring registration.
Perfect, thanks, mate. And that's obviously being factored into our training plan as well. So we'll make sure there's plenty of training available for associations early on in the next couple of weeks in preparation for those who open their regos July 1. The second one related to registrations and being able to directly register to an association. Is that possible?
Yeah, so Play HQ can offer a few options in this space. So clubs can take obviously registrations directly into into their club to various competitions and teams. So yeah, they can take registration directly into the club, or they could even create teams that people would register directly into. So clubs have that option. For associations, there is the ability to have mixtures of, I guess, just standalone teams that might not belong to a club that they could set up and take registrations into directly, if that's something they want to do for that same competition. Or optionally, they could even open up team registration. So if you think maybe more social cricket areas, they could allow somebody to register a team, and then that person who becomes that sort of team manager then to take registrations for their friends that want to play in that team. And then it's up to the association, how they would fixture them into a particular grade or competition. But a lot more flexibility around how associations can manage registrations, either directly to themselves, into teams, or even allow other people to register teams or register interest in fielding teams.
Perfect, mate. And one last one, a couple of remarks. Obviously, some excitement around the system, naturally, based on what they've seen, and some access to, I guess, system testing, or what we refer to as UAT. I guess in an ideal world, we'd love to provide that to everyone, but I guess to build the confidence that this has been a robust process in that regard. Do you want to just sort of touch on, from an Australian cricket point of view, what we've done in regards to the system testing and what sort of community access has been given in that regard?
Yeah. So we're working with various different groups around the country to, I guess, engage quite closely on this project as we've started to flesh things out. And then the same when it comes to onboarding. But we've engaged various super user groups and sort of people that are would love to become I guess spokespersons and super users to help endorse this as we look to roll it out. So we've been able to get test system access for those people and really, I guess, make this whole build of this platform as interactive and engaging as possible for various different groups from all around the states.
Perfect. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. We've got about a minute left on our recording, I think. Huge thanks to Greg. Greg's done an enormous amount of work and will continue to do so alongside myself and colleagues around the country. More information is coming. Thank you very much for your time tonight. There was a lot of detail, but in some ways we've only just brushed the surface as well. So make sure you continue to get those questions through via the club support, and apologies for those that did have difficulties. We thank you very much for your time and look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.